Welcome back to another episode of Motivate with Coach Camp. I, of course, am your host, Coach Camp, and I bet you know something. We are down here in these awesome studios of SRP with Mr. Derek Michaud. Okay, folks, here we are. We are on episode 2 of what I like to consider, this is one of those groundbreaking moments whenever I have an opportunity to pull together a series and have several different examples and people come in to speak to us a certain type of topic. I feel very blessed about that. And this is our second episode on the series about autism. When the idea was presented to me, immediately the first thing I thought was, I don't know if I'm qualified to be able to tackle such a thing. So I had to do a lot of research. And then in the meantime, I was able to get connected to some amazing stories and then found, hey, look, this is something people need to know about. They need to hear this stuff. It's not only inspirational and motivational, but it's educational. And that's always the goal for Coach Camp, is hopefully I want to plant some seeds and give some ideas and give you guys something that is of true value that you can use in your everyday life. So today my guest is Mr. Keegan Riley. He is 28 years old. I've known this young man for a long time. I know his family. We have a lot of connections. We're going to talk all about that. He's in the studio today. We're going to discuss his life journey and some of the trials and tribulations maybe he's went through and where he's at today, and give some educational background on autism and basically how it affects each and every person differently. So before we jump into the show, I'm going to ask you to stick around for just a second, but I got to send a quick word out to you guys from my sponsors. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to have a quick second to let you guys know how much it means to me that you are my sponsor. SRP Studios, The Real Hernando, The Rhythm Section, Hardwick, Heating, Cooling, and Air Quality, Estes, Grading, Hodge Homes, Adair, Honey Farm, Miss Hippie Eats, Phones R Us, Ross, Sod Farms and Landscaping, Ivy Rain, Women's Clinic, Tonic POS by Tyler Young, and Coffee Central. Thank you guys so much for being a sponsor. If you'd like to be a sponsor, go to my website now, motivatecoachcamp.com, and click on the button. Thank you. Welcome back, guys. Here we are. We are with Mr. Keegan Riley. Thank you, sir, for coming down to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So is this your first podcast you've been on?
Yes,
first podcast. But it's not the first one you've seen, because you've seen quite a few. We talked about that. You like podcasting and that. That's great. So let's talk about our connection. So going way back to the early days of young youth baseball. I actually got to be your coach. And do you remember me coaching you?
Yes.
You do. So your mom and I and your dad, we all went to college together. Just a fun fact, throwing in some fun facts. Your mom and I cheered together at Northwest Community College. And your dad's Army First Sergeant. Hang on, say it.
He's a Mississippi Army National Guard Sergeant Major.
Sergeant Major.
He's the head of recruiting and retention.
And he's been doing that for a long time. So for a lot of years. And I've known your family, great people. Your sister, she cheered down at Northwest as well. And so our connection, our roots go way back. Keegan, I want to share a quick story before we jump into everything about you. So one of my favorite things, and look, whenever I have a connection with my guest, it is special, and I got to share these things. And this is a great moment. I just kind of talked to you about it before the show started. And funny enough, Keegan did not remember this moment. Man, I cannot believe you don't remember. This is so great. Keegan was about 11 or 12 years old, and he hits a rocket line drive to the outfield, straight to the fence. And he's running, and I'm telling him about how I'm watching him come around second base. Here comes the ball in from the outfield. Keegan's giving it everything he's got. I see the ball. I see Keegan. I see his mom. His mom is jumping up over the sides of the fence. She's just cheering her heart out. And I'm like, man, he might get thrown out, but I got to send him. As a coach, I want to live to have these moments with somebody, because I want that player to have this memory. And you come around third, and the ball's coming in, and it hits in front of home, and the catcher misses it, and Keegan's safe with a home run. Your mom's out of breath. Her heart's beating 1,000 times a minute, and Keegan didn't even remember it when we talked about it. Man.
Nope.
But guess what? You know what you did?
What?
You gave Coach Camp a great memory, if nothing else. So now we know a little bit about that history of us together. Let's jump into Keegan Riley growing up. So where did you grow up at?
I grew up around like South Haven, Hernando. My grandparents live in Eudora, Mississippi, which is just 20 minutes down the way, towards Tunica, towards Robinsonville. So I did a lot of growing up there. We lived in South Haven for a little bit, and we lived in Hernando. So basically just DeSoto County. That's basically where I grew up.
So when you were growing up, in DeSoto County, and I can only speak to a little bit of it because you're about my son's age, we were growing. the county was growing at that time. Now it's blown up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you look at Olive Branch, South Haven, everything's massive. But back then, we were not massive yet.
No.
It was just a growth process. What do you remember about your childhood? I mean, where did you go to school at?
First went to preschool at Walls Elementary.
Oh, you went to Walls. Okay.
I went up to about 4th grade there. I went to Soda Central a little bit, but that's memory so like it was so temporary that it's very like kind of passing. But most of my time was spent at Walls, and I went to Lake Corett. And then for 7th grade, I went to Hernando Middle School.
Okay, so that was when you transitioned out of, well, so 6th grade's kind of middle school, but I guess nowadays, I don't know what it was back then.
Yeah.
But then you come to 7th grade, so you start out here.
Well, Lake Corett Middle School wasn't built yet.
Oh, it wasn't built yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was, was it, shoot. No, they had, the high school was the middle school because they hadn't built the high school yet.
Okay, so yeah, it was up and coming. Yeah.
And they had like classes out in little trailers for the high schoolers. So it was Lake Corett Elementary is where I went. And then it was because that was where the 6th grade was.
Okay. So when you start 7th grade, though,
I was at Hernando Middle School.
you came to Hernando. All right. And so at that point in time, and this is kind of, we're going to dive in a little bit to your diagnosis as autism, and then how that started to develop, because whenever a person's really young, all right, so I don't know this to be a fact, but I could talk to an extent about what I've known. My nephew, which just was on the show, his episode was right before this one last Monday. He's 12, and his diagnosis kind of came when he was about 6 or 7. And there were a lot of things that kind of stood out about him that got his parents to being concerned and take him into being evaluated and seen by doctors. So by 7th grade, did you have anything that was kind of like showing that, hey, maybe there's something going on? I don't know what it is yet.
The way my mom tells me is it was my preschool teacher, Miss Selby, who she's a dear family friend. It was just a dear friend of the family because of how much she cared for me as a preschool teacher. She recommended to my mom and my dad that I get tested for autism or Asperger's. Which has kind of been now, it used to be kind of its own separate thing. Now it's just been kind of conglomerated.
So they kind of blend them together now?
And it's on the high end of things. So, but that was the person who's recommended.
So that was all the way back to preschool, you said. What were some of the signs that maybe she picked up on?
Just fixations on things. I wanted to be alone a lot. I separated myself off a lot from other kids. I would say, like, I can't help it a lot. Like, some things I would do, my parents would they wouldn't get on to me, but they would just kind of be like, Keegan, why'd you do that? And I would say, like, I can't help it. I just did it. And so I guess that's what my preschool teacher saw and just was thinking, maybe this should get checked out.
Yeah.
Not as like, oh my gosh, you need to check them out.
Sure.
But as I think this would be something worth looking into.
And this, because I know your age, and that would have been like 2001, 2002. So early 2000s for sure, since you were about 5 years old, I guess, if preschool. So then that's really intuitive of her, because back in the early 2000s, it really was not spoken of a lot. So to be able to recognize there's some subtle things about a person's behavior and recognize, hey, look, we should probably get them tested just to see where they land. That was pretty intuitive of Miss Selby. I know Miss Selby very well. She actually taught me when I was at Walls Elementary. She's been around for a minute. She's done some stuff.
Yeah.
And so then you go get tested. What was the test like, or do you remember?
I don't even remember, to be honest. And my parents didn't even tell me till later.
Oh, really?
I guess they weren't confident that I would fully understand what it was.
Sure.
I have a kind of passing memory of when they told me. I remember like my mom calling me. We were at my grandparents' house, and they called me downstairs, and they said, "Keegan, do you ever wonder why you do certain things, or why you say like I can't help it a lot?" And I said, I guess. And they said, "Well, you have this thing called Asperger syndrome, and it kind of explains like why you're the way you are." I can't remember the full details about what it was, but I remember that's when they told me. It was. But yeah, that's, but no, I don't really remember. Like, I remember kind of memories of how I behaved, things I did back in like preschool and first grade, second grade, and stuff like that. But as far as sorry,
That's okay.
can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, it's the whole point of it was, and I wanted you to kind of work through those thoughts because the impulsivity that people have sometimes, and they can't understand why they're impulsive to it, or they can't explain why they're seeing something the way they're seeing it. Those are some of those early signs that a person will start to feel like. And then for you, whenever you first get evaluated, and you were very young, it sounds like, and then they try to break the news to you, and you're kind of like, maybe not. What were you feeling? Because that goes to the next level of not just understanding, but what were you feeling whenever people are talking to you about, hey, look, you're struggling with this or you're struggling with that, and you couldn't explain why it was that you felt those ways?
I guess, I don't know. I was just kind of I went about my ways. I knew I was different from other kids. I definitely knew that there was this feeling that something was off, or not off, not in a bad way, but just atypical from other kids. Like I would sit in desks that would be out to the side. I would, have some meltdowns in class, like where I'd get like kind of angry.
Did you feel anxious?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't remember like feeling like discriminated against.
So with the anger, do you think that was frustration from not being able to really pin down why you were having certain feelings or emotions?
I think it was just part of it.
Yeah, part of it, yeah.
Because like there would be times where in third grade, there was literally a case of me having situations where I would argue constantly with the teacher, not because of disciplinary reasons, but because of academic reasons. Like she would get an answer that was different from mine, and I would argue that that's not right, or she, I'm right, she's wrong, kind of thing. Where I would just vehemently argue with her, and it's like, no, that's. And I think that was kind of partly the reason, or that was definitely when I started understanding, or it was kind of clicking with me what I had, what my brain was doing.
So look, and now here's a great point in time to kind of open up this door a little bit. So we tiptoe a little bit into the diagnosis and the ideology that something's different. And this is the part where I think a stigma starts to fall in. And as a paramedic, look, let me explain something. As a paramedic in the city of Memphis, I don't know that there's anything that I haven't seen or had to try to mitigate or manage. And there were some common threads whenever I would encounter individuals that either had autism or some other form of mind-altering thought process. And there was a lot of things, because we had schizophrenics up there, we had bipolar, you name it. So the whole spectrum, really. And one of the problems I saw whenever I had young people that had a diagnosis of autism or Asperger's or some other type of mental, and this is the part you want to be safe with. You don't want to be offensive. You want to say handicap or disability, but it's really not that. It's not a disability for a lot. Yeah. A lot of folks are able to function through that. It's just altered differently than what the spectrum of people see. So the normality of society, if you will. And that part of it becomes hard sometimes for people to feel comfortable approaching the conversation. And that's what I hope this does for people, is to approach the conversation and not feel like that they're being demeaning, right? So you don't want to be demeaning, but you want to be inquisitive and you want to understand where that person's coming from. So then looking at this from that perspective, here you are growing up and you recognize yourself. And that's the part too I wanted to kind of get from you, was that you recognize that maybe the way you saw things or did things, or, you went about your business, so to speak, was a little different than the other folks. But on the inside, you probably felt the same. Yeah. And you wanted to be like others. Yeah. And so then ostracism, man, that's a big word for me. I'm from Mississippi.
Ostracization.
Man, look, I'm going to go with that one. That sounds, don't get me to spelling it, because I will mess that up too. Right. So you don't want to be ostracized by folks, and you want to fit in, but at the same time, you can't help but be you. Yeah. Did you, or at what age, if you did, find yourself feeling like you were on the outside looking in to other people?
It was probably definitely around like sixth grade. Because there were times where this lady, I can't remember her name, but I remember really liking her. She was this lady. I can't remember what she did exactly, what her official title was, but she would pull me and a couple other kids from class for a break.
Oh, this was an adult. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she would pull us from class, and she would like take us to the library. We'd kind of like play on the computer or something, and just kind of have like that kind of decompressed kind of way. And I didn't fully understand what it was, but I knew it was for, trying
to help you,
right?
Trying to help you out. Mm-hmm. So then, was there the opposite of this? Was there the side where you felt like people were being less understanding, mean? It's good if you don't, by the way. If you're having to think about it, that's not a bad thing.
I remember being bullied for it specifically. Like, I remember there were definitely moments where I've been called names and kind of picked at a little bit because of my meltdowns, because of moments of anger I have in classrooms and stuff like that. But nobody ever, like, called me derogatory names. Like, I don't, kind of want to go there, but, the slur for mental retardation and mentally handicapped. They never call me dumb or stupid. In fact, I would demean myself more than other people would.
Did you find that as a defense mechanism?
Yeah, I guess so. It's just because like if I did something wrong or I know I shouldn't have done or should have done something better, I would kind of like hit myself and tell myself I'm stupid. Like if I didn't get a good grade on a test or a grade that I thought was, even though it wouldn't be like a terrible grade, it'd be like a B or a low A. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I should, dummy. I would like get really upset about this. Or if it's a test, I'd get like really stressed out about it because I'm like, I would get stuck on one question. I would get stuck there and get really frustrated about it.
Yeah, and then sometimes whenever it's kind of like I like to use this analogy of like electrical wires, electricity, and it's just going in all different directions at the same time. There's no solid current to be able to connect the thoughts, and that's kind of how it's been described to me a few times before. It's just like so scrambled, you can't get your thoughts together to move forward, and that's how you get stuck on like a question as an example or a problem that you're presented with.
The big aspect that I really want to touch on is because this was a big part of my life from middle school to high school. Was I had this little gadget. It's called an Alpha Smart. It was kind of like a little digital typewriter that I could type out notes with because I hated not keeping up with notes. Like if a teacher started like showing notes on the board or whatever, I would like get stressed out because I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up. I want to write down everything because that's just what I wanted to do. I didn't do like, what's it called when not lowercase, but like you want to like encapsulate notes where you shorthand, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
I didn't like to do that. I wanted to write out full length
everything,
and then my lettering had to be like it wasn't. It had in the way I wrote my letters was very like I had a teacher who told me like I had the best handwriting in class, so that would be included in the thing where my handwriting because my handwriting was like so particular, because I had to get every single note down on the board. Somebody, I don't know who, it was like maybe 6th grade is when I first got it. They suggested me, would you like an assist with that, where you type, not write? So they gave me a little. It was called an Alpha Smart. And like I said, it's kind of like a digital typewriter that I typed all my notes on, and then I could connect it to a computer with a USB cord and print off all my notes if I needed them. So it was a very handy little tool.
You had to become a really fast typer then.
Yeah, I guess so. I'd say so.
To keep up with the notes and stuff, because I am not a fast typer. I'm a hunt and peck kind of guy. But so then you've actually kind of encapsulated a lot of what I was going toward is the fact that when you're growing up and you don't understand why you're feeling or seeing things the way you're seeing them, then it's hard to put a name to it. It's hard to put understanding to how to fix it. And it can overwhelm you. And that's kind of what you were expressing about why you hit yourself and why you would say things over and over. And the reason why I ask about the bullying part, because back then there really wasn't a lot of conversation about autism or Asperger's or any of those other diagnoses that are out there. And now it's kind of pretty widespread. People know a lot more about it. But the reason why I took us to 7th grade was because my experience, and this is talking to lots of people over the course of decades, up to about 5th grade, there are some bullies out there. Kids are usually pretty kind to kids, usually. They can be nice when they're young. But once they get a little older and start to develop their own opinions, their thought process, and they want to get into cliques, etc., the game can change. And so for you, it does sound like, though, that overall, for the most part, you really didn't have too many of those moments.
I
and that's
had
good.
people I was friends with, to be sure. Like, I was friendly with people.
Sure.
There were definitely people who accepted me and were more understanding of just kind of being nice and whatever. But I there was still that kind of like outsider feel that I had where I knew I was different from other kids. Yeah.
And I could speak exactly to this in the fact that you had one of the biggest hearts of all the kids I've ever coached. And I say that absolutely sincerely. You had a huge heart. You come into the dugout. You always had a good attitude and you gave everything you had. So, I mean, to a point, and you were 11 and 12 years old at that time. That's right there kind of at the cusp of going into junior high. You were always very fun, very friendly person. And so that's why I was kind of like, people that are growing up with some kind of situation where they're not the same as other people around them, they can really start to be hard on themselves and fall into depression. And then that takes them in a whole nother direction. Did you ever find yourself as you got into high school feeling depressed? Because we're about to go to the next part of this. So you did. Let's talk about then whenever your first diagnosis comes out and you're kind of getting into those more formidable years, what was the treatment or the process for you to be able to start to manage those things?
It really started kind of leading into high school, were teachers who were kind of designated to help kids with autism, with bipolar, with OCD, with, just various mental handicaps they had to deal with and disabilities. Where I remember there was a kid named Robert, and I'm sure if people who went to Hernando High School and graduated my class and a little after that knew Robert, he was obsessed with coins, and he always talked about his geckos that he had. I don't know how he did academically, but I remember that's how he was. So the teachers I had that were specifically designated for those little kind of for those students. I remember they had specific classrooms that we'd go to, and that was a whole period for us. Yeah.
What were some of the things that they would teach you?
It wasn't even teaching. It was more like they would help us with tests. Is there any homework that we have, that we need to work on that we need help with? There were couches and cushions and stuff like that where we can kind of relax and kind of do that brain decompress where we can get all the noise out and just do what we want to do, which was like get on computers, play with our video game, Game Boys and stuff like that. Like Miss Fowler, I think she was the teacher who helped me out in 7th grade when I came to Hernando. She had like a little room where we could draw, she had a little TV. She had a little Nintendo 64. I think it was a Nintendo 64 that she had. Or no, it was an original Xbox. She had that, and she had like little video games and stuff like that. Just kind of pull us away from the everyday kind of pressures and expectations of school and just kind of let us be us for a minute.
Sure. Was there any kind of concerted effort though to give you guys tools? When I say you guys, I'm talking about anybody that's having struggles, whether it's you're the high stress kid or maybe you shut down and you can't think straight or whatever the problems that person may have. Did they give you guys tools or ideas about how to manage that better? Because like for instance, I'll give you a great example. I had a friend who had trigger moments. Yeah. Hyper anger from nothing to 100,000 miles an hour. And one of the things that he had talked to you about was they would give him tools to recognize that first of all, and then do steps to be able to walk it down. Whether it was a countdown, whether it was a think about something different for a second, give yourself 5 breaths, deep breaths. Yeah. There was different tools. Did they do things like that for you in school?
They definitely did. Okay. There were like specialists who'd come in and kind of show like kind of pull us aside and be like, hey, this is like let me teach you some helpful techniques, because like there was one time where I remember this one lady, I don't remember her name. She asked us to draw what we do when we get angry. And I drew a picture of me throwing like a pillow against the sofa, and she was like, well, Keegan, you know why we want to do that, right? And she said, we might hurt somebody, we might hurt yourself, and maybe let's avoid the more violent kind of meltdowns, and let's try to work on breathing. Let's try to recentering ourselves and kind of like quieting down our minds and stuff. I wasn't very good at using those tools.
Sure. I mean, look, it happens. Not what works for one person is not always going to work for the other. But I wanted to kind of put that out there to see if other people relate to that. Do they have these moments where they're able to speak to somebody, the counselor or whatever, and give them some ideas about how to recognize the thing that is sending them off the rails for a minute, if you will, and bringing them back to center?
Yeah, for sure. Because I remember there was, I think his name was Mr. Purvis. He was one of those teachers, the SPED teachers, I guess you'd say, where I would ask, I was given, IEPs where I would have certain accommodations, and there were times where I would definitely say I was allowed to ask for a break from the class.
Okay.
Like just to kind of step outside.
All right, that's a great example.
Or go to Mr. Purvis' classroom. And there were definitely times where I had to call for that, where I was just feeling stressed. I was really just, I didn't want to get angry. And I could feel it just things boiling up inside me. And I was just like, can I get a break? And they were like, yes. And so that's what I would do. I go out to the classroom, sit out the hallway, or go to his classroom.
Yeah.
And just like a short little thing like, okay, hey, calm down. You need to go back to classroom. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, those are the kind of that's the kind of examples I was looking for, because the bottom line is this: what works for one's not going to always work for the other, like I said. And in the end, knowing that there are resources out there, and I think that our schools are probably better equipped than they were 20 years ago, obviously 15 years ago, whatever. And I have seen a concerted effort at my college. As you may know, I'm a professor at Southwest Community College, and we have college students that come in. And they have to file through ADA, which, you know, the Adult Disabilities Act it's very widespread. It could be everything from having sight problems to having learning alternatives, whether it's a visual learner, an auditory learner, et cetera. And for us, once we recognize what helps them the most, like one of our common requests is taking a test in a room by themselves.
Yes.
Free of distraction. That is probably the most common request. But those kinds of things being allowed and being understood and recognized can set a kid up to a young adult into a completely different path of success. And you mentioned something, and I want to go back to it. You talked about how your writing had to be so perfect and the sentence structure had to be spot on. My nephew that was on last week, one of the things that he's particular about is he loves Legos, and he doesn't want to do just like simple Legos. He wants the complex Lego building things, and he can pay great attention to that. And for me, and I'm hoping this is the case, and that's why I want to talk to you about it, because he really wasn't sure.
Right.
He's 12. He's not going to know what's going on necessarily in the schools yet, because he's kind of getting to that point where things can change. With the schools recognizing that there's a different learning path for people that have Asperger's or autism, are they allowing particular types of material? Like if you have a fixation, I'm just going to come up with something. Let's say you have a fixation with math, and there's a certain type of way that you want to do the math. Can they alter how the material is being taught to give you an opportunity to be more successful the way you see it?
I think that's where IEPs come in, because there is definitely those accommodations, like you said, being taken out of a room for a test, be more isolated for that. I don't know about like certain processes, like if there's a way a certain kid has a, but I'm sure that there's definitely a workaround there.
Yeah, I didn't know, because back then, it's a while back.
Yeah.
You're 28, so you've been out of school over 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, have you had your 10-year reunion?
No.
It's coming up.
Or at least I didn't get an invitation.
And then here's what happens. You go 10-year reunion, and all of a sudden you're at your 40-year reunion. You're like, how did I get old?
Yeah.
What just happened?
Yeah.
Why is all this happening? So I was curious, because now I think there are a lot more of those programs where they cater towards the young persons once they get to a certain age. And I don't know if it's in junior high or just high school, but where they cater towards the thing that they love most. Because let's face it, I don't think this is a stretch. If you're fascinated or intrigued by something, you're going to learn it a lot easier. I was not a great student in school in a lot of subjects, Keegan, but when I found paramedicine, man, I was fascinated by pathophysiology and medicine in general, and it clicked, made straight A's. But in high school, my teachers would have been like, this guy's not going to do so well. So the same kind of concept with autistic students is to give them opportunities to excel in the areas that they're fascinated with.
Yeah.
So then let's move through high school. What are your high school years like? And whenever you come to graduation, do you have an idea of what it is you want to do for a living and what direction you want to go?
My dad, they really wanted me to, my mom and my dad, really wanted me to have an outlet. And I didn't want to be in band. I was in band for a longest time in middle school. I was a trombone player.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't want to do marching band. Because I was like, I have better things to do on Friday night, which is go home and play video games.
Oh, okay. Well, you can make a lot of money video streaming nowadays, apparently.
Yeah. But they really wanted me to have an outlet because they knew that it'd be healthier for me to better socialize me and better just have accommodations to better prepare myself for, the outside world of outside of home and school.
Yeah.
My dad sought theater for me. Oh. Because theater helped me. I was very obsessed with imagination as a kid. I would kind of isolate myself from people, at events or just in my room, just kind of be myself and kind of enjoy my imagination a bit. I would imagine myself as a soldier, a robot, and it's various imagine. And that thing extended for a very long time. And even now, I still have those moments of, oh man, and my imagination's kind of running wild, and I want to act it out and stuff. So my dad was like, "Well, what if you go into theater? Because that's something that that's going into these imaginary worlds and pretending to be other things and telling stories and harboring becoming characters that are outside the norm, that are fantastical in a way."
Sure, absolutely.
And that was something they thought was definitely a good outlet.
So you did that for a while. Where did you do your acting?
Hernando High School. I wasn't on stage at first. I did acting for a while. A lot of church plays. My parents saw that I was really interested in those, church plays, and I did a summer camp at DeSoto Family Theater a while back where we did High School Musical. I was one of the basketball players.
Nice.
So I think that's where they saw where that outlet would be good for me. So I did a lot of acting there. Also, that kind of expanded into doing acting community theater as well.
So what's your favorite play you've been in?
Oh, God.
Uh-oh. How many have you been in?
I've been in several.
Dozens?
I've been in over a dozen, yeah.
Over a dozen? Yeah. So here's a little surprise fun fact.
Okay.
I was in 3 plays in high school.
Okay.
Godspell was my biggest moment.
Yeah, I know Godspell.
Yeah, so that's the last one. That was my second senior year. That's a whole nother story. We ain't got to go down that road. But yeah, so that's interesting though. So theater actually was an outlet. It gave you an opportunity for expression. And you could be someone other than yourself and do it in a very accepting way. People want to see that, right? So I like how you connected those dots, and your dad saw that. That was very intuitive, obviously, to be able to send you in that direction. And so do you still do it? Are you still involved?
I haven't done it for some time. I tried to get back into it, but I just couldn't.
Okay.
But I try to help out where I can. But I just haven't done it in a while because my work schedule, what I do, it really doesn't offer much versatility and doing late night, because that's what, a lot of shows are very late night, 7 o'clock.
Right. You're right. And then the practices and all that stuff. Yeah, it's time consuming for those that don't know out there that's not been in the theater world.
God bless those who can do it. That's why you see a lot of younger kids around here do community theater stuff, because they have the energy to do it.
They have the energy, and a lot of times they have the time in their schedule, right? So then coming out of high school, you did some of this stuff. What were you thinking you would do for a career?
Oh God, I don't really know. Because I was so big into video games, this was around when I was growing up, YouTube was really becoming a thing. Gaming videos, comic books, stuff like that, movies. I really wanted to start a YouTube channel when I was younger, and I kind of started at one. I still have it. I use it to mostly comment and and subscribe to people on YouTube. I have a couple of videos on there, but nothing blew up. Yeah. Where I posted gaming videos, they're called Let's Plays, where you would record yourself, you record the gameplay. You won't record it. Sometimes you can, but because of the limited technology I had at the time, I just recorded the gameplay itself and talk over it. So I did a couple of those. That's what I wanted to do. I was like, oh my gosh, there was this company out in Austin that does a lot of stuff with video games. They create content with video games. They talk about video games, and they play video games professionally. I wanted to work out there. I I just wanted to do all this stuff on the internet because like you see all this stuff, all these people getting famous and successful from being on the internet, on doing things they love, and a lot of it was video games.
Yeah. And now they have so many different platforms like Twitch or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's several of them, and people just play video games, put it on a stream, and then people send them money. And I don't know how this works. Look, I've been motivational speaking for a hot minute now, over 3 years. I haven't figured out YouTube. I've got a little over 3,000 subscribers, and I'll swear to you, when I started, I thought, I'll be at a few million in no time. Wrong answer.
Yeah.
You got to figure out the algorithm.
Yeah.
It's tough. And then once you break through that, I guess maybe the rest is history. So far, I have not figured that out. So then you like video games. You wanted to blend that to possibly a career. But I know, because we talked before you started, you're a technical media producer at Action News 5. So at what point does that door open up, and what brought you that direction?
I really wanted to. So back in high school was mostly the YouTube thing. But when I got into college, I majored in theater.
Okay.
At Northwest. And at the Senatobia campus is where, and I had great teachers. I did a lot of theater stuff, and I got my associate's degree in theater. It was the next 2 years to get my bachelor's degree, where things kind of really started to, okay, what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah. How old are you at that time? Maybe 20, 21?
Maybe 19, 19, 20.
Okay.
I turned 21 in 2018. I didn't graduate till the fall semester of 2019. So like 22 is when I graduated. So like, 19, 20.
Yeah.
Around that time.
Which a lot of kids, 19, 20 years old, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to figure life out.
And I remember having a lot of arguments with my parents about what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a professional actor. I wanted to...
We're going to go back to, we're definitely going to hit on how this life was growing up and the adjustability to parents. For sure. I'm just bringing us right up to where you are today. And then we're going to walk back just a little bit and see what some of those things are. No, I want to know all that because that is important. That's a big part of this message, because it's not just your journey and how you got to where you are and what it is you're able to do, but then it's those people around you that love you, and they would do anything in the world to help you do anything that you want to do. And that's another part of this message we're going to get to, is because sometimes it's hard on the loved ones that are around a person that don't know how to help them. And so we're definitely going to go heavy on that in just a minute. But let's get you to where all of a sudden Action News 5 is a part of your life. And so you leave Northwest. Where do you go then?
I go to University of Memphis.
Okay.
I get a communications degree with a focus in film and video production. Because that was where we finally decided to settle, was, okay, you can either do, because my parents were like, I'm really good with technology as well. I was always the kid. I've learned to figure out my great grandmother's VCR at a very young age. So they knew I was very technologically inclined. Sure. So they're like, you can do some of the computers. You can do. So we finally met in the middle, where I wanted to be acting, but they said, like, what do you do? Something like engineering, stuff like that. We met in the middle, and it was film and video production. So that's where I went to. That's what I did at Memphis. I really wanted a job, and so because we were thinking, like, okay, what can I do with this degree? I looked at the local news stations, because I knew that was probably the closest thing I was going to get, because I wasn't going to probably be working on big movies and Hollywood movies or anything like that. But that was probably the closest thing I could get to finally working toward.
And you're a young man. Let's not rule that all the way out yet. I'm just saying, if that's the direction you want to go in life, you got to get a foundation. I'm relating this, but we're coming right back to you. So Gary Parrish, he started out just wanting to cover and be an analyst and a commentator. Do you know who Gary Parrish is? He's the commentator for the Grizzlies. Okay. But back in the day, it was with the University of Memphis. Okay. And that was his pinnacle. He wanted to hit there. Now he's up in New York all the time, and he talks about all the NBA stuff, does a lot of stuff with Grizzlies. So, you never know where you're going to go. You're only 28. You got a whole lot of life left, a whole lot. So once you get into the media production stuff, where are you thinking?
Actually, what really kind of got me started was my advisor sent an email out to all of her students saying, hey, the Memphis Redbirds are looking for camera operators. And I applied because I like the Redbirds. I like going to baseball games growing up, and I played baseball.
Your dad played baseball. You played baseball on my team, sure.
So I enjoyed the Memphis Redbirds. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to apply. This is a job. It'd get my mom off my back about working, but it was close in my field, and I could start out there. So that's where I started, was Memphis Redbirds. That eventually, actually, my first year working Memphis Redbirds, that led me to doing field work at Memphis Tigers football games. So I worked with a independent contracting company called Running Pony in Memphis, where they do like in-house kind of video production stuff. The University of Memphis hires them. They're a sponsor of University of Memphis, and they're hired out to film like the kind of like, put people on the billboard, the fancy graphics and the production and all that stuff and all the cameras to film the game so that people can watch on the big board and stuff like that. And so that's where I finally got my foothold in the production world, career-wise. That's when I finally decided to go into it more professionally, not as a contractor or part-time, but wanted to go more full-time and get it as a job. So that's when I applied to Channel 3, WRG Channel 3.
Yeah. I've had Tim Simpson on the show.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, I met Tim. I worked with Tim. He's a great guy. It was sad to see him go, but
29 years. He put the time in.
I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, he's out in South Carolina. I talked to him last year, and him and his family are out there doing things in the mountains of South Carolina. Yeah. So yeah, he's a great guy. So Channel 3, they don't accept your application.
It was a lot of talks with the production manager there. It was getting really close, and then COVID hits.
Oh, yeah. 2020, yeah.
Because it is such an enclosed space, and there's a lot of, very close, and it's inside a building. It's interior wise. It's not really, what did they call it? The managed. I don't know what they would call it. It was like the jobs that weren't.
Oh, you're talking about essentials.
Yeah, essential
jobs.
Yeah, it wasn't an essential job, so they weren't really hiring, so that didn't work out. So I went to go work at FedEx because my mom was like, you need a job, you need to work, especially now. So I was like, okay, I really wanted the job at 3, but hey, it's fine. So I work at FedEx, and Memphis starts finally opening back up. And then I still don't have the job yet. But then I go to work in DeSoto County, which is funny enough because I work as a SPED assistant for DeSoto County Schools. I work at Olive Branch.
You still do that?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
At Olive Branch Middle School. Mm-hmm. And so I really liked doing that. And I liked helping those kids out because I've been in their shoes before.
Absolutely. Giving back now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, full circle.
And that's when I finally hit 3. The production manager reached out to me again. Mm-hmm. He was like, hey, I see you applied again. We have a position open, da-da-da. And so I finally get the job at 3. It's just part-time. So then I look for work, and I finally get a job at Channel 5, which is now full-time.
Mm. And how long you been there?
Going on 2 years.
Okay. So that's the full spectrum of your ideas of where you come from, where you started, how you got into what you do now. And the bottom line is this is kind of like the feel good story moment where people out there that maybe they're watching this, they're 12, they're 13, they're 14, and they're wondering to themselves, how am I going to figure out life?
Yeah.
How am I going to find something that fits what I can do? And what I just heard you express was you followed the things that made sense, but then also you had people in your corner that helped direct you in things they saw you being good at. And that was your mom and dad. And so then that brings us to a great segue here, because let's think about whenever you want the best for someone and you don't know how to give it to them, you can't fix it as a parent would want to do, but it doesn't have to be a parent. It could be anybody that cares about you. What is that like, knowing that they have your best interest in mind and they're becoming frustrated and you can't help them? And then talk a little bit about their evolution with how they were able to better help you.
I really can't express enough just how much support I had over the years, how close my family was to me and help and supporting me. My mom being a teacher really helped out as well, because she was, for most of my life growing up, she was in the school that I went to school at. So if there was an issue, just say, hey, Miss Riley, we need you to come help with Keegan or whatever. So that was really advantageous for us that my mom was a teacher and I went to the same school that she taught at. I really want to, sorry, I'm kind of like, I really want to process my thought on this, because it's really important that I kind of touch on the fact that I did have a strong, very, very, very strong support system.
Yeah.
My Mimi, my Paps, Sheila Riley, she sits on the school board.
She follows me. She's a follower of Coach Camp. I've seen her.
So she also kind of understood the importance of helping me with those accommodations in school. And I just had a great family growing up, you know, and it's unfortunate that a lot of kids, especially with autism, don't get that.
Sometimes they don't. They're seen as a behavior problem, and then parents, they don't know where to go, and so they feel helpless.
Yeah.
And sometimes they lash out in the wrong way as well.
My parents, well, we definitely, you know, had we've argued.
That's family.
Yeah.
Trust me.
And I've been disciplined plenty of times, but at the end of the day, my parents were always constantly reminding me how proud they were of me and how much they loved me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very much appreciative of that. My dad would always, you know, my dad being in the military, he's a very like tough guy, and it's very kind of stereotypical way of viewing the military is that they don't really understand things. Like they, you know, very like they're all macho and masculine and all that stuff, and they don't really have and my dad said, like, look, I don't understand how your brain works.
Yeah.
But I understand you because you're my son.
Yeah.
And that's something I cannot ever, I don't know what the word would be, not appreciate, was the love my dad had for me, the love my mom had for me. Because she, despite the fact I had the hand, I don't call it a disability for me because I am on the higher end of things. I call it a handicap.
Okay.
Despite that, she expected more out of me because she knew I can handle it.
Okay.
She knew that I was stronger than most. She knew that I could put my best foot forward and make it because she's seen me do it.
Yeah.
So she always held a high standard. She never held me back and said, okay, well, we'll take a look, you know, we'll kind of hold you back a little bit and we kind of, you know, need kind of shelter you a bit. No, she knew I could handle it.
Yeah.
My dad, he taught me to be strong and kind of like, hey, you know, kind of stiffen up, you know, he was never like, you know, what are you doing? You know, oh, you're not being, you know, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? He's never like that. He was very like, you know, hey, you know, buck up a little bit, you know?
Sure.
I love you. I'm proud of you, but just come on, you know, don't, you know, no reason to cry, no reason to get all frustrated and all stuff like that. Look,
yeah, I
don't understand how your brain works, but like I said, I understand you because I love you, but you know, you got this. I love you. I'm proud of you.
Mm-hmm. Keegan, so normally I speak a lot, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted you to work through that. I wanted you to work through your thoughts on that and your feelings on that, because that's the important part for a lot of folks that maybe are dealing with their own personal frustrations, and then knowing the balance of when should I treat them more like every other kid, or when should I pull back and maybe understand a little more, because it's difficult whenever you are the parent in particular, but then it could be difficult for anybody that's a caretaker or somebody that's looking after someone that is trying to find the balance between how do I push them to be more like everyone else around them, and when am I supposed to set back and understand that they're doing something or dealing with something that is not what everybody else is able to process, because it is about the mind and being able to process information and then being able to work forward. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm not always perfect on stuff. Yeah. As a clinical person and somebody that has worked in so many different avenues of healthcare, I don't consider myself a psychologist by any means, but you have to have a certain level of psychology about you to be able to relate to people, talk to folks on different levels, different ideas, perspectives. And I got to be honest with you. There is that part where you just want to be able to say, do this, this, and this, and that person understand what you mean, and then do those things. Yeah. And when they can't, it's on you, the person that is the caretaker, the parent, maybe the mentor, to take a step back, take a deep breath, and realize, how can I go about this differently to get the same message across? I like what you said, though, about your mom and dad both wanting you to build that toughness that's needed in life. I want to relate a story to you. I had a young lady on here. She was 14 years old. I met her at a softball tournament.
Okay.
She was on the other team. And when she was born, she had a deformity on her arm because there was a nerve damage in her shoulder. There's a whole medical thing that we talked about. But her arm was contracted up. So she only had one functioning real arm.
Right.
And she was an outfielder, and she was a catcher, and she went 3 for 3 against us. And I go over, and I've never met these people. They're from Jonesboro, Arkansas. And I'm like, I've got to meet your daughter. What is her name? And I'm not a creepy dude from the side. I'm the coach. I'm coaching the other team. I need to know who your daughter is. And they're like, her name's Miracle. And I'm like, you ain't kidding. And then they told me the story, and they said growing up, she came on my show. She was a guest on my show. You can look it up, Miracle Stewart. Her parents didn't want to allow what was an obvious deformity that was going to be a bit of a disability to be her crutch in life because they knew life was going to be tough. And her dad pushed her to be just like everyone else. But he did it in a way that she always knew he loved her. And that's kind of what I'm getting from you. Your parents wanted to push you. Yeah. But they also wanted to make sure that you knew they loved you. And that's the balance. And so for anyone out there watching that maybe you're struggling with whatever that is right now, and maybe you have a child that has autism, and maybe you're trying to figure things out and find the right path. We've talked about the spectrum situation. And what I want you to do, if you can, talk for a few minutes, because we are getting close to the end, but I want you to talk for a few minutes on, if you know, how do they gauge a spectrum? How do they know if you're, what they say, high functioning versus low functioning? What is it that they do to test that?
I don't remember the specifics of how I got tested.
Okay.
But if I may go back to kind of when I was a SPED assistant.
Okay, yeah.
Working with autistic kids and bipolar kids and behavioral disorder kids. And looking at their IEPs and looking at just how they behaved in the classroom. It's so fascinating to me that some of these kids, just from the first intention, from the first impressions, you would think these kids aren't going to get very far, and some of them won't, and that's unfortunate. And it's just how they were. But just to see that they could do stuff still, that even if some of them were on the lower end of autism, and some of them were more hyperactive and obsessive and emotional than others, they still were able to do things. I could still reason with them. I could still tell them, hey, look, all right, you can do this. Do this for me first. Yeah. Like, I remember this girl, she was obsessed with drawing. She always had to draw. She constantly, she was on the lower end of things, and I loved her to death. And she had her behavior problems. But she would do her work. She would still do her work. Do
you think it helped that they probably trusted you a little more because they knew you had been where they are?
I think so. I don't think I remember telling them where I did tell people, like, I know where these kids are coming from because I've been there. Yeah. I've been in their shoes before.
But you didn't necessarily share that with the kids?
I don't think so. Okay. I don't ever think I said, hey, I have Asperger's or I have autism, because I don't think they fully understand what they have. They might have. That conversation never. I treated them. I kind of wanted to treat them as much as regular kids as possible.
I got you. Okay.
Because I wanted to let them know that they're distinct from other kids. But they're not. What's the word I want to look for? They're not outcasts. They shouldn't be ousted.
They're just as valued. Yeah.
Even if they have their emotional moments. Even if they have their moments where they're just not getting it. Yeah. Even in because I had a kid who was kind of like, he got mad at another kid because he called him stupid. And I said, look, I've met some stupid people in my life. You're not stupid. All right. You just process things differently than them.
Right. That's actually the definition of it. I had it written down here. It is the processing of information. That is the idea of what Asperger's and autism kind of is related to, and it's how your brain interprets information on the outside world. And man, it's such a touchy subject sometimes with some folks, and then you don't want to sound derogatory or like you're speaking down to something, to be able to actually speak to the thing that they're dealing with, whatever that is. And I think that's why this podcast, and that's why I think this series was so important, and having someone come in to be able to speak to what their life was like growing up and where they are today, and give that thing that we all need in life. It doesn't matter what your walk is, and that is hope. Hope that tomorrow can be better than yesterday, and what you're doing today matters for tomorrow. And that's who you are, and you encompass that, and you gave the idea too about how the road wasn't always easy, but you had people in your corner. That's the other thing that I hope that this will do for some folks, is recognize I need to be in this person's corner more, because maybe they are struggling with processing information, and I want to be the source that they can look back on and say, hey, look, this person believed in me, that person believed in me, and now I'm able to shine and find my path. And that's what you're doing, Keegan, and that's why I'm so glad and proud of you to come in here and speak. It's not easy, and it does feel vulnerable, right? Whenever you put yourself out there like that. I've had people come in and speak on addiction, and they were meth addicts, or maybe they were alcoholics, and it's real hard to go there because it's not a glamorous moment in their life, but they recognize that it's important to share that with others, because hope can come tomorrow when you're working towards something that matters, and that's what you're doing. So moving forward, Keegan, as we get close to the end here, do you see a future where you're working with autistic kids in another capacity, whatever that would be?
It's been debated.
Okay.
I definitely would love to do that. I do love my job currently, but it just, even as a side thing, as a kind of volunteer thing, I've debated it. I've certainly considered that possibility of helping kids who may have similar situations like me. Yeah. Who grew up like me, who may have had those moments of, why am I different?
Yeah.
Why do I behave differently than other kids? Am I stupid? Am I not? Like, why am I different? So much of, and you hate to put labels on stuff,
but so much of putting a definition to something can give a person understanding of where they are and why they are. I will just give you a quick relatable comment. I took a personality test this past year, and I'd never taken a personality test. And the personality test highlighted areas, after you take all these random questions of most likely, least likely, all that stuff in between, when you're done, it prints out a definition of who you are, your personality style, and why you think that way. And it was spot on, Keegan. I was eerie. That was like 95% accurate. It was almost so surreal. I thought that there was some kind of black magic involved. It was really crazy. Yeah. But what it did was it gave me a better understanding of why I react the way I react to things, why I talk the way I talk, because I talk fast a lot of times, and it's that processing of information, and the personality test really did a lot for me. I don't think it's any different than a diagnosis. People like to think of diagnoses as sometimes being a negative thing, and I don't think it is, because if it's a starting point of a definition of something you can start to put corrective measures in to help you be more successful at something, I think it's a good thing. And the only way we get there is being able to have conversations about it. Sir, I think you're a great ambassador, and you're 28, you're very young, you've got a big life ahead of you, and it may not come in the next year, 5 years, 10 years, but I think there's definitely a path here for you to give back to that community in whatever way that looks, whether you start your own nonprofit one day. Who knows? There's a big need for that. I'm going to have a person on that's following this episode from the ARC. Are you familiar with ARC? And Miss Treadway's coming in to talk. Okay. And we're going to discuss all these things and what the model looks like for helping people and where the resources are, because that's the other side, is that you need to know where you can go and what's available, and that it's okay. And it's okay to talk about.
And I also want to make sure that people understand that you have a right to be concerned about their future.
Yeah.
Especially when they get to be an adult.
Oh, sure.
Because that's hard, especially because are you familiar with the Badur Center?
Oh yes, yeah.
You're worried that they might end up being on the street or something. And I thank God that there are places like the Badur Center that can help those people who are definitely on the low end of things on autism or bipolar or what have you. But, and it's not just autism, it's just any kind of mental. But you have a right to be concerned about your child, who might be dealing with that. I want to say suffering, because it's not everybody suffers.
Right.
There's moments of suffering, but you don't suffer. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. like, for instance, one of the biggest things I was obsessed with as growing up was finding a girlfriend. Because I knew I was socially awkward. I was starting to get to the age where I really liked girls and wanted to talk to girls, wanted to be in a relationship. And, my sister was getting in relationships, and I just saw all these people like getting together, and I wanted that intimacy, and that's something I never had.
Yeah.
And
companionship.
I worried about it. I dreaded dying alone one day. Then there was a moment where and there's been times where I've had to accept where this might not happen. And I've had family members tell me it doesn't happen for everybody. And I want to make sure that people know that if you're worried about your kid in relationships, finding that person for them, there is somebody, because I eventually found somebody for me, and that's my current girlfriend. Her name's Kayla, and she's a wonderful person, and and hopefully things go farther than just girlfriend boyfriend. But I love her to death. She's understanding, and she also has family members. A family member who is also on the spectrum. Yeah. So she knows where I'm coming from. So when she sees those behavior things, those moments of fixation and difference of processing, of using more logic than emotion to overcome a situation or to solve a problem. She's seen it before. Yeah. And she's very understanding of that. That's good. Again, I just want to make sure that people understand, if you're worried, you have the right to be concerned. Be there for them. Like I said, my parents were always there for me when I needed something. If I was in trouble, my daddy was there in a drop of a hat. Sure. My mom was there, and she would call whoever I needed to be called, and she would come for me. And like, I remember there's this one night where I really wanted to talk. I was spending the night at a friend's house, and I'm sure there's regular kids who are neurotypical kids, as the word is called. Okay. Who've been in that situation where they kind of get homesick a little bit, and they need to talk to a parent or a guardian. And my mom was always there for me. They were on call for support if I needed it. Yeah. So here you are now. You got your job. You got a career. You got a girlfriend. Possibly get married at some point. You got a house. Don't have a house yet, but we're going to get there. So getting on the house. So 28 years old, got a full life ahead of you. I think you're a shining example of what is possible. And I think we've covered a lot of the ground here of what some of the trials and tribulations are that you go through, and then figuring out your path. And look, here's the thing too. I think this is just as relevant as anything, is there are so many things that can pop up in anybody's life. You don't have to have some kind of, and like we've kind of hit around. So what'd you call it? Neurotypical is what deficiency. You don't have to have that to have struggles in life, and it's scary and dangerous, and we get better. We get by better when we have people in our corner. And so that's a great message to send to everybody. And Keegan, I know that you are going to hit the ball out of the park again. This time, maybe you can jog around the bases, not have to run and give your mom a heart attack. Oh, gosh. You're doing great things out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the next chapter is. And look, I don't know if I can afford you, but I'll probably need some media help around here. I've got a great producer, but being able to put this stuff out to social media, I'm not the greatest at that stuff. And I think my numbers show that sometimes, but people they tune into the podcast all the time. As a final thought, is there anything you want to leave folks out there with as we wrap up today? I guess kind of what I said before. You have a right to be concerned. Okay. I mean, it's a tough world out there. Yeah. Especially for people who are neurotypical is kind of what you call somebody who's not really on the spectrum or has those mental handicaps or disabilities. And neurodivergence, kind of the word been thrown out there for people who do have autism and so on and so forth. You have a right to be concerned with it, especially if you're a parent or a concerned friend or loved one. Be there for them. But and don't shelter them. There's going to be things in life where you won't always be there for them. Yeah. So there's no point in being constantly protective over them.
Allow them to fail some. Yeah, that's a tough thing. Yeah. That's tough.
I guess it's kind of where that parent of, you kind of have to let your kids scrape their knee every now and then.
Right.
So they can know what it's like.
That's human nature. We learn the most when we fail.
And even if you have the moments where you feel like you're not doing enough, am I getting all the support they need, all the resources, doing all the research and stuff like that? Don't stress about that.
Okay. That's good. That's good advice.
Communicate with them. And anybody who's watching who may be on the spectrum or anything like that, know that things might look hopeless at times. I know I deal with depression, anxiety. There are moments where I've contemplated taking down a darker path in my life. Mm. And I've sought help for that. I was actually in a mental health facility for a time, and thankfully I wasn't there long.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all too serious, but it was just a kind of safety precaution.
Sure.
It's called Lakeside. Lakeside is the facility. It's up in Memphis.
Yeah.
There are dark moments. There are really dark moments. There are moments where you feel hopeless, helpless. But there's hope.
Yeah.
There's help. And I think that helping me was part of like returning back to God and the church. And even if you're not religious, there is still hope for you.
Sure.
That just helped me out and kind of reorienting and what's important and what's a solid resource for help. Parents, friends, loved ones, having outlets.
Yeah.
These are things you can help with your child if they're on the spectrum or what have you. There is hope. It's not always doom and gloom. There's always something to help out.
Yeah.
And like I said, it may always, and there may be times where you're going to struggle. I mean, there are going to be times where you're just going to be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what happens today. What happens when I die? Like I'm sure I feel for the parents out there who maybe have a child on the spectrum or who are very atypical. I hardly advise not to do that. Mm-hmm. You're just gonna make yourself worry more. Just breathe and know that you'll be okay.
Yeah, I like your message, Keegan. One step at a time, one day at a time, and when things seem their darkest, light's coming because it's always darkest before the dawn. Mm-hmm. Just keep moving forward. Reach out to someone. Tell someone if you're having a problem. It's no shame in asking for help. And know that tomorrow can be better. You just got to keep going forward. Don't give up on it.
Yeah.
And you're living proof of that. And that's why I know your story matters. And I know that people are going to connect with you. And I hope that the art coming in here can give people the idea of what resources are out there. That's why I'm having them come in after you guys, you and my nephew. And there's a place out there for everybody. Yeah. And there's a person out there for everybody, as you have shared with us.
Yeah.
What's her name again? Miss Kaylee?
Kayla.
Miss Kayla. Coach Camp says, what's up? Keegan, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming in. It's great to reconnect. Hey, look, maybe one day you'll be Little League coaching out there.
I hope so.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And, that's what happens. You get married, get a house, all of a sudden there's kids, and then you're old. So,
and that, oh gosh.
Yeah, I know. Trust me. That's how I've been saying all the time.
That's kind of, I don't want to kind of go over time or anything, but that's kind of one of my concerns is children. I wanted a kid for a long time, but there's been times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting very close to that point where I might have kids. Will they end up like me?
Yeah.
I remember
if they did, you're the special dad that they needed. That's the way I see it.
You call the scene of Forrest Gump where Forrest meets his son for the first time. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If you haven't watched that movie 40 years ago, then ruin the movie for him.
Forrest, that's why it's my favorite movie.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump, he's not the smartest guy. I'm not a very smart man. He meets his son for the first time. He asks, is he like me? Mm-hmm. Because even then you realize he understands what's wrong with him.
Right. And I think that's a common concern.
And Jenny, who's the mother of their child, she tells him he's very smart. Mm-hmm. And that helps me out to remember that, because if they end up like me, if they end up having autism or OCD or bipolar or anything, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there for them because I've been there.
Right.
So I'm excited to have a child.
I think you should. And I'm excited to watch that on Facebook. So put it out there so I can watch you guys do stuff.
I got you.
Keegan, thank you so much. Tell your parents I said hello.
Of course.
You know, I don't get to see them anymore, but hey, we all hung out back in the day quite a bit. So thank you so much. Tune in to the ARC also. Check them out. They're coming in right after you guys. I want to say thank you to all my listeners and viewers out there. Please, at this time, go over to YouTube and subscribe. Go to our website, motivatecoachcamp.com. And until next time, Coach Camp out.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape,